backyard. You know that we had some technical issues last week, and fortunately, our speaker, Lisa Rainsong, was incredibly gracious in agreeing to a redo today. This is not a traditional day. We normally meet on the second Wednesday of the month. So thank you, Lisa, for doing that. And you've heard about what's happening next month, so we're going to get right into it. So Lisa Rainsong is like one of the most fascinating people in the world. We were just on the tune-up to this, we're learning about her sort of blue-collar roots and the fact that she worked in factory settings where actually the loud noises might have done some long-term damage to her ears, which when she finally decided to pursue an academic career at Cleveland State, and then I believe at the Institute of Music, that was later, when she was in her 30s. She does hold a Doctor of Musical Arts in Composition from the Cleveland Institute of Music. And she also has a naturalist certificate from the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. That's a rare thing because I don't know that they give them out anymore. And she recently retired from her 22-year tenure as a member of CIM's music theory faculty and coordinator of their Doctor of Musical Arts program. So now she can dedicate all her time to teaching to the music of natural history. What's amazing about Lisa is that if you've ever seen photographs of her, it's never, a headshot in an office or in a concert hall. It's always her in her rugged outdoor gear in the middle of a marsh or swamp with a big fuzzy microphone and her tape recorder or whatever she's using. And there are always these great action photos as she's trying to record the sounds of all of these amazing songsters out there, birds, of course, but also amphibians and especially insects. And she really has become an amazing expert in bioacoustics, particularly in our region. I don't know anyone else that does what she does and does both it from a standpoint of an enjoyment, of deepening her understanding of of the symphony of nature, but also approaching it from a scientific bent. So she's the full Monty, and we are really lucky that we have her here. And she will often, maybe she'll remind us in the program, but insects were the first musicians on Earth. Long before there was a bird singing, there was probably some insect stridulating or making some kind of sound. So we are really, really very fortunate to have Lisa return this week to compensate for our technical issues last week. So I give it to you, Lisa Rainsong.
I just got a text from Matt saying, tilt your camera a bit so we can see your face. All I see is Matt is my screen, so I don't know if you're seeing my face enough.
We see your face now. And just a reminder to everybody to mute your microphone and turn off your video. And if you have any questions, post them in the chat and we'll get to the questions at the conclusion of the program. Take it away, Lisa.
Okay, everybody can see the screen?
Yes, you're doing fine. Thank you.
Yay, thanks. So the thing that's going to be a little bit different about this program is because gardening is often so visual, and because we humans tend to focus on what we see, I want to also emphasize what we hear, because guess what? Everybody who's outside my window right now, my Cleveland Heights backyard, all the birds, insects, the squirrels especially, they are all focusing on what they hear. And if we focus on that also, we're going to be aware of things that we might not be able to see.
And you can start your program from the beginning.
Okay.
We'll give it a second to think here. You're all set, Lisa. Great. Congratulations.
Thanks for your help. Okay, and this is exactly where I had started. Okay. You hear all that going on with the birds? They're all listening to each other. They just pay attention to us only to the extent that we're useful or a threat. Otherwise, they don't care. They're listening to each other. So we're going to try to listen in so we understand what all is happening in our gardens and what we're setting up for them. See that little tufted titmouse? That's who's singing so triumphantly in April. In particular, he's making a lot of sound, but the sound just changed. The pitch is similar, but it doesn't alternate. This is the snowy tree cricket. And if you look at the sonogram, up here at the top is the bird song up here. Then down here at the bottom is the insect song. They can't change pitches. They're on one pitch. They can get higher when it gets warmer and they can move their wings faster. But otherwise, they basically stay on one note. So, dum, bum, 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 is going to be the snowy tree cricket. But if you hear alternating pitches, that's a bird. This is our backyard, our little Cleveland Heights backyard. When we got this house, none of that was there. It was just some grass and a little discarded bricks and glass and stuff. So that's what we did. And this is how it sounds on a summer night. You know who you're hearing? I bet some of you do. You are hearing my favorite singer, the catbird. I love the catbird because he's like a fabulous soprano who has a huge repertoire and can sing it together, sing all of those aspects together into a song, woven like a concert piece. Same backyard. This is how it sounds right now. After dark, crickets, katydids, just listen. Snowy tree cricket. He's singing real fast because he's warm. You hear there's other ones in the background. Davis's tree cricket. Narrowing tree cricket. Up high above. Common true katydid, and many more. Come on. So you may be thinking already about how you're going to create bird-friendly spaces. Think about who is where. This part you probably know already. Who is where and when are they there? This rose-breasted grosbeak is here in May. And he stops here because it's a nice habitat. There's insects to eat here. It's a safe place. Lots of trees, lots of shrubs. This is basically branches that are hanging above our garage. So let's take a look and a listen to what birds need. And we're also going to consider what singing insects need. And there is a big overlap. When we're creating habitat for one group, we're creating habitat for some mammals, and we're definitely creating some habitat for the insects. This female cardinal, by the way, was right outside my back window. So here's my basic list. See if I forgot anything. They're going to need food. They're going to need water. They need places to hide. They also need places that they're going to put a nest that's safe for raising their young. The males are going to be looking for perches that are appropriate for singing to announce their territories and to advertise to other mates, my yard, you get out of here. And it almost goes without saying, no pesticides anywhere. Look at these two bluebirds. Now they're not in my backyard, they're out in a park, but that's where I could get a picture that shows you the importance of the food that they're hunting for. And these are not seeds. Look at these, they're good providers. Look at these insects that they're about to feed to their young. The males and females who have young here, they're going to be looking for food, and they're not going to be looking for birdseed. This wood thrush, I assure you, does not stay in our Cleveland Heights backyard, but on his travels, he stopped here. It's like, oh, this looks like it might be a good place for something to eat. And sure enough, where we have wood chip paths that we've made, they'll kick around the wood chips and look underneath for insects. They're looking on the bushes for insects. So he's foraging right outside the back window. Obviously not a summer bird, but they come through in the spring on migration, although some of the juncos were here all winter. They're going to look around for food on the ground, and they're going to look in the dead leaves. You've heard that whole saying about leave the leaves. Absolutely. I see them rooting around in there looking for insects that might be underneath. I have, and my wife Wendy also, we have on occasion gone out in January when there's no snow and crawled around ourselves looking under leaves to see what they might be finding. There's a lot of stuff going on, even in the winter, under the leaves. So every level of our habitat, they're searching the whole thing, top to bottom, because they're looking for what they can feed their young and what they can feed themselves. By the way, have you ever noticed how the white-breasted nuthatch always seems to be going down the tree instead of up the tree? Since we're not actually talking to each other, I can't quite ask you for a response, so I'll just tell you. There's insects both directions. So this nuthatch is looking for insects on the way down and catching the ones that the titmice and the chickadees missed going up. We provide a rest stop. You've probably been on long freeways going out God knows where, and you're looking for a rest stop somewhere. Well, we are a rest stop for the birds, like this ruby crown kinglet. He stopped by looking to see what might be in the understory. In addition to insects, some birds, in fact, many birds eat a whole variety of things from seeds, including seeds and berries. So keep that in mind as you're planting also. And they've got to have water for bathing and drinking. Now, people talk about, oh, it's time to put the garden to bed. No, the garden does not need to go to bed. It just goes into a different phase. So there may be snow on the ground, but I've got some water out here because I know the birds need bathing and drinking possibilities. And this robin is very happy about splashing around in this little bird bath. Actually, quite a few birds were happy about it. They need shelter, and this is one of the reasons why. We get Cooper's hawks every year, and it's usually the young ones. And so there's got to be not only trees and shrubs, brush piles. Brush piles are a great shelter. So that's definitely something that you can have in the backyard. If you're in Cleveland Heights and you're afraid that you're going to get inspected, you can be kind of discreet. You know what we did? We grew some vines on top of our brush pile so it didn't look like just a brush pile. This was some years ago, but that's when they still inspected all the way into the backyards, and we pulled it off. Nobody noticed. We did not get cited for our brush pile. I love having catbirds in the backyard in the summer. They are my favorites. Why? Because it's as if they are singing arias that they are the composers of. They're creating these long, beautiful songs that are unique to themselves. So they're just the best. And they will sing a little more out in the open when they first return in the spring, but after that, I don't see them. I hardly ever see them. It's a lucky day when I see them back there because they've got shelter and that's where they are. Male cardinals will be up on a branch, or really on the top of a dead tree, being all vulnerable and gorgeous. And females, they're down in the shrubs. That's where they have to be because they don't want to call attention to their nests and their babies. They've got to have those shrubs. Brambles are good. Anything with thorns is good. Not for us, but for them. This is our downspout by the back window here. The doves found that a decent place to nest. So you know that doves can be pretty creative and sometimes their nests are pretty flimsy affairs, but they did really well on the downspout that year. As far as finding appropriate nesting material, that's essential, but that's not a problem in our yard because we do leave the leaves and we leave various kinds of materials like what this robin has in the slide that you're looking at right now. They can find stuff for building nests in our yard. And I've seen a female Baltimore Oriole using fibers from our swamp milkweed that she's going to put in her nest. So everything we're doing out there is, they use it. They use it. If we make it happen for them, they're going to stay. Males have to have appropriate perches. You can't just have little ornamental shrubs like a boxwood that's been sheared so there's nothing but a mound. These birds need a place to sing from. So we're going to garden for insects, we're going to garden for shelter, we're going to garden for everything that they might need. And you know what? It's going to look beautiful. It might look a little wild, but as long as nobody's coming to inspect your yard, it's great. Now, my featured singers are crickets and katydids. They show up now. They are singing up a storm in our backyard and even into our front yard. And guess what? They're going to need almost the same thing. Now, see how he's using his leaf? He's using it like a megaphone. The sound is made right here, bounces off his wings, and the leaves help amplify it. This is right in our backyard, both these pictures. Most of the insect pictures, if not all of them, are from the backyard. We have 7 snowy tree crickets this year, just in our backyard, and a couple more that are moving into the front yard. Oh, hear that little rattly sound? In the end of the season, we bring insects in and keep them in mesh cages in our warm dining room to extend their lives. Also, Nikos the cat thinks they're the best. That's what they sound like when they get old. They don't usually get to live that long, but this old boy in February was still trying to sing. It's just his file and scraper on his wings broke down a little. So that was this, you'll probably not hear that again. That's the sound of a very old snowy tree cricket that nobody ate. He's still alive. Look at this list of the things that birds need. And then be mindful that you don't have to start a whole new list. Because guess what? The insects need pretty much the same thing. This is a Texas bush katydid. This was not in our backyard. We don't get the great big ones here in the city. Have to go out a little bit into the parks to see them. My point with this one, however, is he is in asters. He's very specific about his food sources and his shelter, and he did not want to be in goldenrod. I picked him up and took pictures of him, and I put him back on some goldenrod. He wasn't having it. He just went at me and would not leave my hand. It's like, no, this is so wrong. He needed asters. That's what he's used to living in. Perhaps that's what he's eating. So he was very specific about his needs, and he would not leave my hand until I put him back in an aster. Now we know that the birds are going to get water from the rain and also the bird baths. Well, the katydids are not going to use a bird bath. That's pretty deep for them. However, rain and dew will generally suffice. It's only a little hard when we get a long dry spell like what we just had. Look how well they hide. Birds can conceal themselves, but I don't think there's anybody who can top the crickets and katydids. This is a big insect, and yet he looks so much like a leaf that if you were walking past, you would not see him. We do have them in our backyard. They're up in the tall trees and the oaks. And Harvey, those are the ones that are singing that I was having trouble still hearing. They're a little hard for me to hear. So yeah, some of you who may be my age, in your early 70s, some of these things are not as easy to hear as they might have been. I am always an advocate, by the way, I'm just going to put in a plug for hearing aids are great. You can also have a microphone and headphones and point at the things that you think you might be hearing and increase the sound that way. You're not completely doomed. I can almost hear the tick, 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 tick. Maybe some of you can as well. So look at this. I pass these houses on Monticello / Wilson Mills, and every time I look at them, I think, aside from humans, who could live here? There's nothing. Boxwoods and a burning bush or two. There is no safety for anybody, no native plants. So those are sterile. There's not going to be any insect song here. And the birds are going to be looking elsewhere for insects that they can eat. This, however, this would be good. Now, I haven't seen this building for a while. This is the naturalist office for the city of Twinsburg. It's called the Stone House. It was built in 1836. And the naturalist who was there for a long time, Stanley Stein, he planted all of this and it sounded wonderful. He spread out into the surrounding meadow area in this park, and it was just glorious to hear the insects here. Now, they don't nest in the same way that birds do, but in order to deposit their eggs, they're typically in something. And what I hope you can see, this is an ovipositor right here. This is a tiny, tiny cricket called a handsome trig, and he's maybe 1/4 of an inch, 1/3 of an inch. Maybe we'll give him a 1/3 of an inch in size. And she, that's the she, is depositing eggs right here. Look over here, this is a black-legged meadow katydid. Same thing, in this heavy stem here, that's the ovipositor. That's where they're depositing their eggs for next year. Sometimes in the ground, sometimes plant stems, branches, crowns of trees for some of the ones that go up high. These are Texas bush katydids, and I had seen the couple there, the male and the female. And when I went back a couple of days later, I found these heavy grasses with eggs actually in them. They'll fall to the ground. They will eventually hatch out the following year. And there's the next generation. Crickets and katydids, unlike birds, they don't have parental help when they hatch. When they hatch, they are on their own. So they have to find food right away. So this little one did really well for itself. It found a grass that was appropriate. It's Timothy. I mean, that's just a pasture grass, but you know what? I just have to say what I've noticed is this is widely used by crickets. Out in the field, this is really, really common. So I'm not quite so hard on Timothy. There's places it shouldn't be, but if it's just a kind of wild meadow that's got some Timothy in it, it's going to have a lot of singing insects on it. This is another way that they protect themselves, by the way. Some of those nymphs, they look like something that you might not really want to try eating. A bird will look at that and they'll think, I'm anthropomorphizing, of course. They're going to think, I don't know about this. I think I probably will move on to something else. They have this kind of, it's not exactly camouflage. They're really out there, but someone looking at them is going to think, maybe I'll just make a better choice. They've got to have perches just as birds have to have perches. They can be fairly lightweight because they're so small and light themselves, but they don't sing from just anywhere. And only ground crickets and maybe bush crickets sing from down on the ground. Most of them are up in plants or way up in trees. So they are looking for perches, just like those male birds are looking for perches. Oh, hey, what about these? Oh, yes, you know this. This is, to me, the sound of July. These are not the periodical cicadas. These are the annual ones. They're here every year. But we have to take care. I'll wait. Okay, buddy, you done? They have, their young are in the ground and they have to be able to burrow up out of there when they mature. If that soil gets paved over, that's the end. If there's a big area that gets paved over, all those nymphs will never be able to emerge. So having space where there is actually some ground for them to nest, and then they can burrow their way up and climb up higher. Like this one's only climbed up a little bit. He's just resting for the night, but they can climb up pretty far, as you know, into the trees. But that can't happen if things are paved over. This is the species, by the way, that you're most likely to see because they're in the meadows. And they spend the night down in the meadows too. So you have a better chance of seeing one of these than the other ones that you're hearing right now. As far as the ones that come out every 17 years, we're nowhere close. And you know what? I'm waiting for him. When we had the 17-year cicadas here, we did not have them right up here. We did not have them in any of these suburbs right around us. And my friend Linda Gilbert and I went on an adventure and we were trying to figure out how far away from the city do we have to go to even hear these cicadas. And the reason was, you know, everything gets paved over. And so essentially the cicadas get wiped out. So if you do have any like little trees or anything like that, even on this tree lawn, if I were in Akron, I'd have to say double strip, but on the tree lawn, they'll come up out of there onto the tree lawn trees if you just, you know, keep it soil, maybe some grass or whatever, but just take care of it so they can get out and they can sing and they can reproduce. I guess they just had these in Southwest Ohio this year. I can't wait till they come back. Same thing with them though. They're underground and they have to work their way out before they can come up and sing and mate. And then when they die, yes, they just drop to the ground, but the eggs are already there. I accidentally dug this one up when I was planting something on the tree lawn. Look at that. I apologized. I deepened my hole a little bit and put this one right back because he's real close. He or she is very close to emerging. Let's see. We often don't even think about what might be there under the ground. And They're going to need trees available to sing from. And they're going to need tree roots for the next generation of nymphs. This is a very common cicada in our area. You hear this one a lot, especially towards dusk. I hope I'm not being too redundant, but you kind of get the idea that we need to be watching even the tree lawns, anything where things could be living. Okay, a little bit more here. I want to talk about food. Where and what do crickets and katydids eat? Now, this is a glorious insect. This is the sword-bearing conehead. Sword-bearing because the female has a really long ovipositor that looks like a sword. And conehead because they have a cone at the top of their head, and you can tell the species by the size and amount of black on the tip of the cone. This is absolutely true. They do not like you inspecting their cones at all, and they'll just fly away. However, if you can get close enough to see, you could see, oh, this is a sword-bearing conehead. Look at this cone. Whereas a different species will have a different cone. I know that's really specific. If you come on a walk with me, though, I'll show you the difference. You've got to have leaves. I've emphasized this quite a bit. Here's our snowy tree cricket eating a leaf right from the yard. This black-legged meadow katydid lives in a wetland area, and you can see that she is eating a cattail leaf. The one that just jumped past us was also eating a leaf, and this curved-tailed bush katydid is eating reed canary grass. Well, good for you. There's a lot of it for you to eat. I am not advocating that we plant reed canary grass or protect reed canary grass. Timothy doesn't seem to be as big of a problem. I don't know, someone who's listening could certainly dispute it. I'll just say that Timothy is a big plus for the insects that live in the meadows. Seeds. This is a female, see, this is her ovipositor. This is how she can lay her eggs, even in the ground. And here's her seed. Seeds and more seeds. For these meadow katydids are the little ones that live in meadows. Is there a quiz on the 3 different kinds of meadow katydids I just showed you? Of course not. Is there an oral quiz where you're going to listen to them? Of course not. They sing pretty high. Not everyone's going to be able to hear them. Can you see them? Can you watch them? Yes. Yes, here's an example of Timothy. I see so many insects using Timothy. The grasshoppers love it. The plant bugs, even the slugs. Everybody seems to make Timothy their first choice for a meal. Even this little tiny baby. This is a brand new katydid nymph, and look where it went, Timothy. This beauty, by the way, for those of you who are maybe who have been paying attention to the different species that move in, this is a Roselle's katydid. This is a European native. It came over in some shipping stuff around the early 1950s. Gradually has spread, not real far, but has spread east to about Chicago. They're not invasive. They don't cause any trouble. They're pretty, and yeah, they don't seem to cause any problems for anybody. So here's one non-native that's not really invasive. Must be a conehead. Look at that cone. And they love seeds. Some of these crickets will eat flowers. I said this is a Forbes or a blackhorn tree cricket. Without going into any great detail, we have 2 species here who look identical and sound identical, and it's extremely difficult to tell them apart. And there's a few of us who have been making notes and figuring out the ranges of the two because both species are in Ohio and they overlap. Where do they overlap? Right here, right in Northeast Ohio. We have both. This is another one that you'll find in the backyard, the narrow-winged tree cricket. And goldenrod is a big hit. So goldenrod, Timothy, some insects prefer goldenrod, some asters. And sometimes you'll find them in flowers. This is a baby conehead, which I don't know if I can get back to him. It's too risky. Oh, there he is. There's a big long ovipositor there. So that's a female conehead nymph. She has just a little tiny cone. I'll just go through some of these just so you can look and see everybody that's using the plants. This narrow-winged tree cricket is a species that sings right here in this backyard every year. I've never seen them eat berries, but I saw this one eating these berries, viburnum berries, I believe, at Shaker Lakes Nature Center. And sometimes some of them get a little bit aggressive, and this is one that actually grabbed a damselfly. I was out in the evening with a few of you may know John Pagashnik. It was John who showed me this. I was in a marsh with him and noticing mostly that he could wade in far deeper than I could because he's a foot taller than I am. But when he pointed this out, I didn't care if I got water in my boots. I thought it was so cool. You see what this one? This is a shieldback katydid. They look like they have armor on. They're brown, they're tough, they're kind of big, and look what she's doing. She is pulling a male right off this female. He's so busy trying to mate, he doesn't even know that he is about to be eaten. That's the sound of the curved-tailed bush katydid. They have been a very, very common species. Now, I'm just going to mention, I'm worried about our large katydids. It seems like I'm seeing a considerable drop in numbers in the past few years. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to try to document all this, but I'm very concerned about a drop in numbers. These are big beauties, and I would be so sad if we lost them. By the way, this is an ear right here. Their ears are on their legs, and they can move their ears around by moving their legs around. And this one is actually eating milkweed. So far, I have never heard of anyone knowing that this is a possibility, but I discovered that some of these bush katydids will actually eat milkweed. So food, shelter, and singing, as with birds, all this is really intertwined. This narrow-winged tree cricket in our backyard has what he needs. He's got food, he's got shelter, he's got the kind of plants he needs for his concert stage. It's not just about eating, they use these for hiding and also to amplify the sound of their wings. Some of these insects fly well, and some of them just don't go very far. So if you have them in your backyard, there's a good chance that if they reproduce, you'll have them again and again. We have certain species that are here every year. And in fact, we document the time, we document the actual dates that we first hear them, typically in July. These two are right next to our driveway. That's the snowy tree cricket song. And the reason we have more snowy tree crickets this year is because of these individuals last year and the other ones like them. We have them every year now. Just do some pictures for you. This is the male, he's singing. This is the female, she's up on his back. He has a sweet substance here that she eats while she is absorbing the sperm, which is this little tiny packet down here. That's his spermatophore. So while that's being absorbed, he keeps singing and she eats the sweet deposit right back here while that happens. So I'm getting close to my conclusion here. Those stems that people say that you have to cut down when you put the garden to bed, they might have eggs in them. Seed heads, if they're seed heads, the birds will thank you for it. If you don't rake the leaves, there's going to be insects overwintering under your leaves. Now, you may not be as bold as I am and go crawling around in January to see what's under there, but it actually is kind of fun. Just have a flashlight and warm clothes. Cricket and katydid eggs, as well as other eggs, they're going to overwinter in plant stems and leaves. Just leave it alone. Just leave that alone. And you're going to be setting the stage for next year's concert. There's ground crickets down there on the ground. These little tiny brown ones, they lay their eggs in the ground, and they would appreciate it if you just left the leaves right on top of that ground. They hide easily because they're very small. You can hear these. You hear these in your yard if you have a yard at all. These are a little less common. They're more in the country, but we have a number of these little brown ones. Shelter and the act of hiding. Just want to emphasize that one more time. Here is that big greater angle wing in pin oak leaves. You can see how well he hides. Here's a conehead. Here's a blade of grass. You can see how well she mimics that grass. There'd be no hope for her in a lawn. This big beauty is in asters. You might think he'd be easy to spot, but I can assure you they are not. Some of these have brown forms as well as green forms. You can see how brown katydids, this is a cone head, he's got a little stubby cone. The round tip cone head has a little stubby brown cone. You can see how he blends in the stems, especially later in the season. They're very hard to find. I'm sure you're getting the idea of how much they use these plants and how well they blend. It also makes it a little harder for the birds to snatch them up. There's a big katydid in here. It's right here. I don't know if you can see this or not. The Greater Cleveland Audubon Facility, that's where this one was. All the insects need appropriate perches, and it's not the same for different species, just like birds are going to use different things for perches. Some can sing from between two leaves, like this little handsome tree. By the way, this species did not used to be here. They were not this far north whatsoever, and I have been tracking their movement north, and we now have them all the way up to Lake Erie. They're not invasive. They are a native species. They're just finding it possible to live this far north. It's working out okay. You know the sound. I bet you hear the sound at night. These are our biggest katydids, and they need a big, hefty perch. No those stems for them. They've got to have something big. So when you hear that up in the trees, they're not close to the ground. They're up high. And we do seem to still have these in the city. Let's give you a few more pictures here. Here's a conehead, see his cone. They prefer plant stems. So whatever order I put these words in, I mean, this is it. This is a story right here. They're all interrelated. Birds are searching for insects even in the winter. If we create habitat, we'll benefit as well as they'll benefit, because we'll have months of bird song and we'll have insect concerts. So it works out really nicely for all of them. Actually, this catbird had just arrived in this picture. That's why there's not a whole lot going on here. But they'll be leaving soon. It's beneficial for the pollinators, beneficial for the butterflies. All this is going on, daytime, nighttime. You don't have to eliminate every non-native plant. Some people are very purist about it. Some are a little bit more flexible. But the natives are going to be the ones that are used the most. So as long as you have plenty of natives, you can work out your own balance of what you want to have. Although some cultivars are close to the straight species from everything I read in here are the best, but there are some cultivars that are fairly close. I'd say go to someone who deals in native plants, like Avonlea Gardens is one that would be close to us out in Charlotte, for example. Meadow City Nursery. These folks are going to know. And a study has shown that insects are more likely to accept variegated foliage than those dark colored cultivar leaves, the ones that are kind of purplish. Nobody wants those. Nobody's going to use those. Just no. Oh, yes, as I close, I'm going to say, I would never get rid of these ancient Annabelle hydrangeas. I didn't get rid of them. The deer ate them to the ground 2 years in a row. They are totally gone. They had been there. I've been in this house for 30 years, and those hydrangeas had been there long before Wendy and I ever got here. So we planted some native things there, but yes, I didn't get rid of them. I was not the one. Jumping bush cricket. They're likely to be singing in your yard. I brought him home for a photo shoot, and I gave him an Annabelle hydrangea flower, and he loved it. Snowy tree cricket again, singing pretty slow because it was colder when I recorded him. It doesn't seem to matter that there's some clematis that's interwoven with our native Lonicera. They love this. It is wonderful to just walk out the back door and have singing right there. And that's one of the places it's a big hit. So what we did is we observed our natural habitats, whatever most closely resembled where we were as far as soil conditions, etc. Yes, including rocks and clay. We're not far from the old quarry. If you are over in our neighborhood, you know that there's a lot of streets with names like we're Montford, but we have, well, Quarry is the street that's the most obvious, but a lot of them have stone names. Like there's even a street that's named Quarry. Apparently there was a big old quarry there, and we have lots of clay, lots of rocks. We dig up rocks all the time and make borders for our perennials. If you have sun, you've got lots of options. If you don't have sun, don't despair. There's still going to be things you can do. This was a mowed lawn. My friend Linda out in Geauga County, and she let it grow back up into Timothy. It is so full of singing insects, birds, and fireflies. if you've got room and enough light, goldenrod is so popular with so many insects. Tree crickets, katydids, many others. This is a plant that I find a lot of things in. Blackberry's really popular. We have it along our driveway. You just have to put it somewhere that it's not going to take over your whole yard. But blackberry is a very popular plant. I look for crickets in blackberry. In the fall, I wear stuff that prevents me from getting too many thorns stuck in myself as I go search for them. My illustration here is that these are all singing insects that are using blackberry leaves. This you probably know, that there's a lot of nature centers that have not only good things that you can buy, but they will model them on their property so you can see what fits where, what the sizes are, what kind of habitats they're growing and how much sun they need. But again, you can also go to places like Avonlea and Meadow City. This is going to be full of singing insects right here. Menor Marsh Nature Center, fantastic, wonderful job that Becky Donaldson and whoever works with her, that they have done. They're creating spaces for singing insects. So you're creating a concert hall. Consider the birds to be the first act and the singing insects to be the second act. Just with birds and singing insects, you can have a concert into the beginning of October. Gardening for one ensemble benefits the other. If you want to learn more about crickets and katydids, I have created my own online field guide to our crickets and katydids of Northeast Ohio. This is the address. It is, anybody can access it. There's no charge for this. I just thought this information should not just sit in my head or in notes on my desk, that it should be available for everybody. So there it is. Go take a look. And here's me in my natural habitat. I do have a blog. I haven't written in it just recently, although I probably will soon. And that should be everything. It's a little long, but there's a lot of stuff to share with you. And it's happening right now, so it's really timely.
Nearly long enough. Lisa, thank you so very much. An excellent program. We have questions, so let me read them to you. The first question is from Kathy Bradley. We've been going to Blossom Music Center where we used to see more insects and bats. There are lots of Lisa's creatures, almost deafening. Little brown bats are recovering in other areas, but why almost no moths at Blossom? I even saw Luna moths there years ago. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I'm sure you know, the person to ask would be Judy Simrock. I don't know specifically why something in their habitat is no longer there, but I can't tell you more specifically.
Yeah, it's interesting. It would be interesting to know what they do to manage like the lawn and the grounds. And are they using herbicides or pesticides or other things that might be not conducive to a healthy and robust population?
Maybe in the
I,
younger stages too.
yeah, we have our next question is from Anne. When I lived in Shaker Heights, there were lots of common katydids singing. After moving 2 miles to the east, they seem to be absent. Katydids can be heard west of Warrensville Center along Fairmount, but are scarce further east. What's the most likely reason for this?
I think it could be the surrounding habitat. There's something there that they're not getting that they need as far as trees for the larger ones. And yeah, it's going to be about this habitat stuff because some of them do well. I'm surprised that there were any, was it over by Fairmount that there were more katydids?
I think west of Warrensville, she said,
West of
and
Warren.
Fairmount. And when she went east of um, Warrensville, then they started to drop off. It could be that maybe that's just a zone of increased development
I
and
think,
density.
yes, which is the whole habitat thing, because we only have, as a general rule, where I live at Noble and Monticello, we have the common true katydids up in the trees. And we have some greater angle wings, but the numbers are down. And we don't see too many of the other ones. Never see coneheads. But I'm sure if I went out a ways, I would.
You know, we sometimes decry the loss of our urban tree canopy, and that very much has happened across Cuyahoga County. But I think of some of the inner ring suburbs where, you know, they were developed 100 years ago and trees planted. And so those trees are all mature trees. So sometimes in places like Cleveland Heights, you actually have quite a, you know, vigorous tree canopy.
Mhm.
And maybe when you get out beyond Warrensville and east, it's an area of greater suburban development. I mean, that might be a possibility there, that
Oh,
there's just more intensive change in the landscape and the insects are not coping with that change very well. That's
oh,
all
I'm sure.
conjecture, though.
Yeah, but I'm sure you're right. And what we have here, since we're in one of those older neighborhoods, is we have more big trees that our big katydids, the common true katydids need to live in. Because when I lived in a part of Shaker that was kind of on the border of Shaker, Cleveland, we didn't have so many large trees. We didn't have any katydids at all.
Yeah.
But at least we have the big ones up here.
Natalie asks the question, I saw, or makes the comment, I saw a handsome trig on an eggplant last week. Thanks for IDing it for me. And she also posted a comment. I'm assuming this relates to the question about blossom, about maybe mosquito spraying. You know, I wouldn't doubt that they would fog or mist for mosquitoes at blossom, and whether that has a negative impact upon the all of the insects there. Well, that's all the questions.
Can I
Lisa, it's
add
been
one comment
fascinating.
to, I'm going to add one comment about the handsome trigs. Those are the
Mhm.
little red and black and yellowish ones that are so tiny. They're about a third of an inch in size, that I said I had been tracking them because they were never up here. They were never in our area at all. And they are singing in my backyard as I speak to you, and they're going to start showing up. Please know that they are not an invasive, they're not a non-native. They're just taking advantage of climate change. So don't
And
squish them.
so but it is interesting to see, you know, in, you know, an animal that's expanding its range because of climate change. And we talk about that with birds and how those of us elders remember back to the killing winters of 1976 and 77, and how the Carolina wrens, which had moved into our area, all got killed off. And it took a lot of years for the Carolina wren to build its, because they're non-migratory, to build their range back up to the north to include northeastern Ohio. And now they're comfortably here everywhere. And I would attribute most of that to climate change, that we do have that warming trend, and we should probably expect to see a lot of other more southerly species move into our area.
Absolutely true with a number of cricket and katydid species.
Getting lots of thank yous from participants. This has been a fascinating program, and it again will be on our found at our Nature in My Backyard website. Really want to thank Lisa for her expertise, and I love your images. Your photography is magnificent, and I love this picture of you, because this is the kind of picture that comes to mind, you with a shotgun microphone and with your headphones on, and you are wrapped, you're like a heron that's in that sort of interesting posture, waiting for some frog to move below it before you're going to snare it with your beak. It's very, very cool. And you have such a gift in terms of being able to explore these creatures, both in terms of, you know, their natural history, but also from your standpoint as a musician. You bring another element of enjoyment to it. So we thank you for that. I just have one last question. What did Katie do? And on that note, we will conclude this special episode of Brown Bagging It from My Backyard. Reminder that next month we have Chad Klink from Bartlett Tree Experts, and the topic will be Rooted for Success Tree Planting Best Practices. You've just gotten a big encouragement from Lisa to plant trees, bushes and trees for birds and insects and other organisms. So Chad will tell us the best practices there. So thanks for everyone for participating. Lisa, thank you for giving such a great program. And also thanks for being so accommodating after our technical mishaps last week.
Thank
And
you
we'll see
everyone
you
for
all in
being
nature.
here.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.